We're a bit close today, huh? Okay, let's put it until there. Okay, hi. So today, I'm just gonna give you a little bit of a reading update. I'm actually gonna zoom out a little bit more. I just don't want you to see my bed too much. Okay, so I am gonna give you a little bit of a reading update of the stuff that I've been reading this week. I was in a little bit of a reading slump before, and I realized actually why it was not the move. I think why it was not the move. And so I started picking up my classics that I kind of put aside for a second. And I've been reading Emma and Secret History. Okay, I'll talk about Emma first. No, I'll talk about the Secret History first because this I just started this read, and so I don't have that much to say about it. And then for Emma, I have a lot more to say. Okay, so for the Secret History, I have read the first 60 pages, and I just want to say, please, if you're gonna recommend a book, please think about trigger warnings or content warnings. Like, tell people to search up the content warnings before recommending a book. I feel like a content warning shouldn't spoil a book by any means, and it's good to warn readers about certain things, because while it may not affect you that much, or you feel like it might affect a person's reading experience, uh, everyone is different, and so just telling them about the content warnings is really helpful, and then they can choose to search it up themselves or just not search it at all. But for me, I feel like if a book has some content warnings that are a little bit concerning, I think you should relay it to them. And I feel like for the Secret History, even in the first 60 pages, you're gonna have to warn people of the content warnings, because when I did look at the content warnings for this book, whoa, there is a lot, and I'm only in the first 60 pages. But since I have read about the content warnings, now I'm a little bit more prepared for what's gonna come, like in the future, like content pages. I don't know what to call it. Chapters. There are only 8 chapters in this book. Okay, so first of all, I want to say that this book, it starts off really interesting because it just kind of throws you into this setting almost immediately with Richard. He doesn't have a good home life. His parents are not that great, and he has to go out of his way to uh, join this particular university on a scholarship, I believe, or on financial aid. And the characters for the class are immediately introduced, which I am kind of surprised about. But the way that they introduce is very interesting. This was mentioned to me by my friend who is also reading this book alongside me. Shout out to you, Mimi. Thank you for pointing this out. But the characters are immediately introduced in a mysterious way. The way that Richard it describes them in the beginning. I want to note for myself, when in the future when I rewatch this video and I finish reading this entire book, is that he views them as creatures, as beautiful ancient creatures who are on another level. And I feel like that's gonna come into play somehow in like the future chapters, because I just think that he views them very otherworldly, and that's gonna have some consequences because people are still people, and they can do stuff that other people do, and that's a very important thing to know about the people that you may idolize or you may like on a high degree, like in comparison to other people. So I just thought that was interesting. I'm at page 60, and I am really excited to keep reading this. Honestly, I I think that this will be a good read, and yeah, I'm excited for this one. Next book is Emma. So I found out that Emma was actually written in 3 volumes, just like a lot of old books were. Like when I realized Jane Eyre was written in volumes and was released in volumes, I was like, oh, maybe that would have been nice to know. And now I know that Emma was released in 3 volumes because I am reading it via audiobook while reading it like on a physical copy because it helps me to look at the dialogue and kind of process it. Because if you're just reading the dialogue, sometimes it can get a little bit confusing, but when you hear it, it makes more sense, at least to me, for classic literature like this. And I finished the first volume, which is chapter 1 to chapter 18. I read like 5 chapters in a day, and I really like Emma. I really do. I know that she is kind of painted as this slightly dislikable character because of how she is stuck in her own imagination, she is stuck in her own fantasies, and she wants to meddle in people's lives and everything. But the thing is, she is strong, not in a physical sense, but when she gets into an argument with Mr. Knightley, she doesn't back down. Like whenever she's in a discussion, she values her opinion enough to give her honest opinion and defend for what she thinks needs defending. She has the empathy to defend other people even if it is misplaced, because I'm not gonna lie, I do agree with Mr. Knightley and he is supposed to be the voice of reason in this book, but also Emma has this sense of, how do you say it? What's the word, has this sense of self confidence that I admire, even if it is misplaced and she does meddle into people's lives, like how she meddled with Harriet. And she does have some flaws, like failing to admit her faults sometimes. But when she does realize the consequences of her actions, I feel like she does realize that she has done things that she has previously denied, such as influencing Harriet to take a liking towards Mr. Elton. That's one thing. And yeah, so far I'm really enjoying this. Jane Austen is so funny. The prose is so funny. I just want to say that because it's funny and it's also relatable. I remember hearing that Jane Austen didn't think that her works were going to be popular in the future or even relatable because it is so hyper specific to her time. But even now, we can see the relatability on these things because these are such universal themes that she's like describing and talking about. And I can relate a lot of the scenes to modern situations. Like, for instance, I suspected. I've started reading till now. I am in the middle of chapter 21, and she has just started talking about how she doesn't like Jane Fairfax, and I had a suspicion before we reached this part that Emma didn't like Jane Fairfax because she's jealous of her in some way. Okay, I'm gonna repeat that because the camera just blurred, but I had a feeling that Emma is jealous of Fairfax because of something. And when I read about how Jane Fairfax was admired by a lot of the people around her, while reading, I had the thought like, oh, maybe she is jealous because all these people love her, and Emma is also kind of spoiled, and a lot of people view her as a smart, intelligent, pretty girl that has like a lot of self confidence and a lot of power, especially with her name, Woodhouse, being a household name and a name that has a lot of history behind it. So when she hears of another woman that comes close to her caliber, she gets a little jealous and so causes a little bit of dislike towards her. But when she is forced to confront her, she decides that I need to keep good company, and so I am going to have to decide to like her so that I don't feel annoyed and frustrated with myself. Like, if that isn't a modern situation, I don't know what is, because we have heard the story of jealousy so many times and what people do to, like, what people do to help solve this, to help cope with their imposter syndrome or cope with feeling inferior to someone else when they have been at the top their entire lives. It's relevant, it's relatable, and it's so crazy to think that Jane Austen didn't think that she was going to be relatable years after, but she's so relatable. She is truly, truly speaking the words of my mind and my actions. There's there's a quote that I particularly love, and it is about her because she wanted to resolve that she wouldn't meddle in other people's lives anymore. But the thing is, we all relapse once in a while. And so she does the thing that a lot of Gen Zs like me, I think, do. And okay, wait, I have to find this. Ah, let me read. She stopped to blush and laugh at her own relapse, and then resumed a more serious, more dispiriting cogitation upon what had been and might be and must be. That is the equivalent of thinking of someone that you like and then going, so she's just she's just like us for real. Emma, she's gonna be your buddy, and she's been my buddy so far. And I'm really excited to continue reading. I'm currently on volume 2, which means it is after chapter 18, and volume 2 is also 18 chapters. I'm not sure how many chapters volume 3 is, but I'm reading it in volume so that it's easier for my brain to like comprehend. So yeah, these are the two books that I've been reading, and I'm really excited to continue reading them. And I have some other books that I want to read, but these are just the books that I've been reading, and this is the books that I'm like talking about for my reading update. And yeah,